have gone to counselling or something like this. But I just look at that kind of work and think, how do you really connect with a person? How do you really connect with them unless you touch them? And we're lucky and privileged, I think, in our work to have that as part of our toolbox. You know, I mean, I do presentations with larger groups of people where you don't get the opportunity to touch them. And there's certainly a lot of information you can give them, a lot of guidance, etc., that they can take away and use and apply and then come back. But when you can just touch someone just for 5-10 seconds, I think it's a luxury and a privilege to have that within our work.
Is Alexander Technique body work?
Well, my experience of body work is, in the past, and even more recently, is kind of defined by the term body work. And you're working on a person's body, or you're working with their muscles or their meridians or their joints or their spine or something like that. To me, that is body work. But the work that I do and the work that I've experienced with, you know, so many wonderful Alexander teachers over the last 10 years is not just body work. It is not just body work. I have worked with Alexander teachers that the way they work, it could be confused with body work, especially if they don't speak, especially if they don't interact. Maybe they have a way of reaching into the person's psyche just by touch. I think there's there's such diverse ways of teaching Alexander that depending on which one you view or watch or experience, you could say, oh, that looks like body work to me. Looks like they're just moving the body around. But my way is asking them questions and keeping their mind interacting with what's going on at the same time. So it can't just be distilled down to a simple term such as body work. It is so much more than that, I believe.
What was the teaching style of the training school? Was it McDonald or what?
Well, I was really lucky because the director, David Moore, had trained in Sydney, and his course had been lucky enough to receive many different directors. It started off with a group of people who then gradually it changed. So he had many different people coming through his school. So largely a Carrington base, but there were other influences as well. So when he started his training school in Melbourne, I think David wanted to make sure that we got, and I was in the second training course that went through. So right from those early stages, his philosophy was to bring lots of different influences in so that we could experience the diversity of the Alexander Technique and then choose for ourselves which sort of method or methods we wanted to employ. Rather than being taught this is the way to teach the Alexander Technique because this is what Alexander did or this is what Carrington did or what MacDonald did, the different personalities in our course sort of were attracted to the different types of methods. So we had Vivian Mackey come to the course, we had Peter Grunwald, we had Nili Basan, we had Karen Chapman, who trained in England, and she was a yoga and Alexander teacher. So it was a very, very diverse, and it was always changing. So whoever was visiting Australia at the time, and back 10 years ago, there weren't as many teachers coming. But nowadays, David has such a big school. I think there's 15 or 20 people in that school. He can bring all sorts of people out to Australia, and that's what I received. I received a very diverse. And then when I went travelling over to England in 2003, I went to as many different people as I could. I looked up Misha Magadov, and I went to the Carrington School, and I went to Peter Rebo's school, and went and met Chris Stevens, and that sort of thing, so that I could really get a feel for what else was out there. And what I really found was that no matter what the method was, each teacher had found a way, even if they had trained us with a Carrington School or with a McDonald type of style, they had found their way. With all the training they'd been given, they'd found their unique way of getting through to people. And that's what I think, that's what I do. Some people I touch very little because they seem to change before my eyes, and other people have got no chance. I have to put my hands on to give them an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm not sure whether or not that those different ways of working with people came through my training course or from the travels and studies I did thereafter. But to answer your question, we had a very diverse training school.
Which teachers have most influenced you?
Question. I ask that question of people when I interview them for my interviews, and that's a tough one to answer because there were so many different ones. I think Vivian Mackey. We used to, every Thursday at our school was Voice Day, so each school term we prepared a spoken or sung performance, and at the end of the term we did a concert, and that was it. So on the Thursday it was all about voice, and it's pretty confronting when you stand up in front of your peers, not just that they're people enjoying your performance, but they're looking at every single thing that you're doing and they're sitting at your feet. That's pretty confronting. So that work I learnt a lot from, and when Vivian Mackey came to the school, when Vivian came to town, she was a lot more direct than the teachers in the all-day, everyday training course. She was very direct. And I found that the ways that she eventually got through to having me let go of my idea of what I should be doing, or let go of my way of singing, because I play guitar and I happily sing in front of people. I found that very moving. And, the ripples from the things that Vivian did were still affecting me years later, when I would remember things that she'd told me at the time, or things, the tricks she'd sort of played on me to try to get me out of my own way. They were still coming to me years later. I think Pedro de Alcantara, he had a great influence on me with his creativity, with the way he thinks, and the way he helps take you almost, well, I found him taking me out of my comfort zone comfortably, rather than setting up things that really weren't enjoyable. He has these many, what he calls dirty tricks, that would give you the chance to ease your way out of your comfort zone and then realize, oh, I didn't realize that was me. So he was a great influence. And I think obviously the teachers that were on the course all the time, Rosie Feynman and David Moore. David, the director, is one of the calmest, most easygoing and accommodating men I've ever met. In my first 2 years, all I could think of was, he's just too disorganized. It wasn't disorganized at all. It was structured in a very open way, and the training course itself allowed us to develop in ways that were not structured. So we didn't really know how things were going to change as we went along. And some people spent days, weeks and months just curled up underneath the table because wouldn't come out from underneath the table.